Welcome everybody from the beautiful town of San Miguel de Allende. Welcome John, welcome Stephanie, welcome Rofredo, Bea, or Bella, whichever one, Bea would be in Spanish. Welcome and welcome Gringos or Us. You made it here too. Uh, Good evening. Hope you guys, for those of you who celebrated Thanksgiving, hope you had a great time. We certainly did. I'm sorry. Excuse me there. Um, uh, I, as you know, just like I always say, I always take, hey, Rick, how's it going? I take a little bit of time to do a little bit of housekeeping. My housekeeping today is just basically letting you know I haven't released a lot of videos, or I haven't done, hey, Susan, I haven't done a lot of surprise lives, and I'm going to tell you why. Actually, Tom, welcome, Tom M. Um, the reason why I haven't done any surprise lives is that I told you that I was going to be doing, and actually, this is the reason why I'm doing this live stream about community service. My wife and I got volunteered to Henry Liston. How's it going? Great. It was great, and Thanksgiving was great here. We volunteered. There's a group of nurses from Vancouver Island University that are down here. Hopefully, I'll get enough footage to put together a video. Uh, Basically, this university, what they're down here doing is they're basically down here interchanging or exchanging information with caregivers here in Mexico. So they're giving each other presentations and also going to small little towns. I think the first small little town that we went to was a little town where they gave some lectures to women about menopause and women issues and those types of things. Both sides, both the Mexican nurses or caregivers gave a presentation, and so did the students from the university. And this also gives the students a great opportunity to exchange the way they do things here with other caregivers and nurses here in Mexico, and the quite the opposite. The nurses from Mexico can actually learn a little bit from the students here. So we're basically running around. We're going to be tied up for the next 2 weeks because we've already got week one down. So I haven't had much time to do videos. I was going to try to do a surprise live. The only problem was when I got out to the place, and I always say if I have cellular signal, when we got out to the place didn't have very good cellular signal. It was a very small community. Actually, the community was, there were individuals from 5 different local communities. Some people traveled on the bus some ladies traveled on the bus up to 1 hour to come to these presentations. So it was very interesting, very fun. We have a great group of students. So that's why I haven't had any videos out or surprise lives, because I haven't been in a position where I have good signal. And then either that or I've been translating. So I'm too busy and just. So that's what I've been up to. And this brings me to something that I want to bring up. And I wanted to do this live stream. We're pretty much going to do our normal ask me anything. You can ask me anything. Feel free to talk with each other and everything else on this live. Say hello to everybody and communicate back and forth. That's the thing that I love about this stream. As you can see, I got my chat working. What I love about these streams is everybody kind of starts talking to each other on the chat. That's what our channel's all about. It's about community. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that when I moved to Mexico, it was a great opportunity that was given to me. And the reason why I would say it was a great opportunity that was given to me is because, I had to get my residency, and gracefully, the government of Mexico gave me my residency because I qualified. But we also need to remember one of the things that I always say, it's nothing new, that when you come to live here in Mexico, living here in Mexico is a privilege. It's not a right. Anybody who thinks that it's my right to live there because I qualify, well, even if you qualify for residency for whatever reason, and I've seen it happen, DC consulate was used to be famous for this. I don't know if they still are, but I have seen the consulate deny people residency even though they qualified. So in reality, the government, or those of you who have come in through the regularization program, be grateful that the government of Mexico did recognize that certain people didn't have the financial recourses to meet the financial solvency requirements. And some people were actually even living here technically illegally or running to the border every 180 days. It still happens. But what I'm trying to say is that they realized that, and they opened up a special program for those people so they can get their residency without having to show financial solvency. It still exists today. If it's going to exist next year, we don't know, but it still exists today. So if you think about it, the Mexican government has been so gracious in giving us the opportunity, those of us who live here, or those of us who are going to live here. We have to be very grateful and blessed that Mexico accepts us and wants us here and says welcome and gives us the opportunity to live here. And one thing that I really see a lot on Facebook, and I see a lot of it in the expat groups, is this attitude of, well, and especially when we come to the financial solvency requirements, because I see a lot of people argue that, I'm just going to go to Mexico. I'm not going to make any trouble. I'm going to spend my money. I'm going to help the economy. So why is it that these solvency rates are so high? And I'm bringing my US dollars. And it's almost as if I have a right to come here. No, you don't have a right. It's a privilege. And it's a blessing if you can. And what I tell people is that these financial solvency requirements have nothing to do with you being able to afford to live here. Affording to live here is, one thing. Financial solvency requirements is another thing. And they're totally two separate things. Okay? So the reason why we have financial solvency requirements, and there's been some confusion when someone came online and said all you have to do is be retired, because the law for permanent residency basically states that you must be retired and you must show an income that proves that you can sustain yourself in the country. Well, somehow somebody and a lawyer decided that this translated into, as long as you have a pension, you can come in. And that's not true. You still have to meet financial solvency requirements. I think I did a couple of videos about that, and I'm not going to go into this. But what people need to understand is these financial solvency requirements, yes, it is the second part of that law, that you have a income that you can financially sustain yourself, but the government actually is the one that decides how much this money is, how much this amount is, okay? And what people don't take into account is someone says, well, a nurse makes $20,000 a year, or a doctor makes $22,000 a year. And honestly, some of those is skewed because they get them from websites and everything else. And I know one YouTuber just finished doing one and said a doctor makes $22,000 a year, but that's a doctor that works for IMSS. And most of these doctors also work in the private industry or the private healthcare industry. So a doctor really makes more. But the truth of the matter is people start saying, well, if a nurse makes $22,000 or a doctor makes $22,000, and actually, I'm not sure if it was you, Alfredo, or Mexico Adventure that says you'll be in the top 3% earners. Even though that's true, that maybe Social Security at $1,800 a month is a top percent earner, compared to a doctor or whatever off these websites, okay, which are a little bit skewed, because I can tell you right now that my housekeeper and my her husband make more money than that combined. So, sometimes it's a little bit off, but people think, well, why can't I live there? Because I have the means or I make more. Well, you have to understand a couple of things. And I tell people, everything you do here in Mexico is that not only the only thing, everything that you do here in Mexico is subsidized. Okay, your electricity is subsidized. What people don't understand is the welfare system here in Mexico is, in the United States, we call it welfare. I don't know about other countries, but we call it welfare. If you're under a certain income level, you know what, the government gives you a check every month and gives you free health care or whatever that might be. But in Mexico, the way Mexico offsets such a low wage discrepancy here is that, for example, your electricity costs you is next to nothing if you stay under a certain kilowatt hours, okay? So when your electric bill comes out to $10 a month, $15 a month, $20 a month, what you don't realize is the government's paying like 80 to 90% of that electric bill. You don't pay taxes. You come and you live here and you don't pay taxes unless you have a Mexican job. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, but at the same time, I put money in the economy. I spend money here. But you need to understand, you don't spend money on the government. You spend money on the local economy. And although you're helping out the market, you're helping out that person at the market, you're not helping out the government any. And the government's paying. The buses you take, the taxis you take are subsidized. Everything is subsidized here. So the reason why I bring this up is not to get after anybody or not to say you shouldn't be here. The reason why I say this is because we really need to be thankful that we can live here. And sure, we don't pay taxes. I don't pay taxes, but I enjoy the luxury of having the government subsidize my electricity. I have the luxury of the government subsidizing my food, even the food that, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, when we went to the market, remember all of those vegetables? Oh, and the property tax is super low too. John just brought that up. I'm going to put his comment in here. Property taxes are super low too. And so even though I'm enjoying all those benefits, but what am I giving back to Mexico? Am I paying taxes? No, I'm not paying taxes. Also, and I was telling before I got interrupted, or not interrupted, but before I put that comment up, because I saw it was a good comment, John. You didn't interrupt me. But that 500 pesos that I spent at the market, what you need to understand is all those vegetables that I bought were government subsidies. Basically, the government gave the water to the agriculture people, gave the seeds to the agriculture people, and even gave some of these people that sold me vegetables, they gave them their land so they could actually grow these things and actually come out and bring these products to market so they can make some money. And they could also survive in their own little towns, because in their own little towns, they actually swap back different. Like, for example, if one grows corn, the other one grows beans, they swap the beans for the corn, kind of a barter system. So that's why I think it's very important that we give back. And one of the things that I did when I started my channel is I made this channel about community service to the expat community. But I also think that it's important, to help you guys to move here and give you the tools to move here and know what it's like to move here and give you the truth, not skew the truth, not tell you half the truth, not play with words or play with the truth, but to tell you how it really is. And that better equips you to move here. But in me giving that community service to you, I also feel I owe it to the Mexican community to give back. And ever since we've been here, I mean, this doesn't make me better than anybody or anything else, but it's just something that we believe in. And we were fortunate enough to be involved with a program called Resplendor before we left San Miguel for Monterrey for a little while. It's a program in a little town called Cajones in Guanajuato, where little kids, it's a community center for, actually it's focusing on the whole family, but it's in order to get children that are from that community the opportunity to go out and go past their community and get college educations. A lot of them have come back as architects, architectural, civil engineers. And this program has helped the families to be able to enable their children to leave the communities and come back and give back to the community, actually. So that's something that we got involved in there. And also, I've donated a lot of stuff, computers and stuff to them. And now we're doing this with the University of Canada, Vancouver Island University, not University of Canada, Vancouver Island, which is in Canada, of course. But then as you will see in my last post, we also put together a care package. One of our neighbors was putting together care packages for people that were in Acapulco. They were going to make a trip to the Red Cross. So we went out and bought a bunch of stuff to help, because out there in Acapulco it's been devastated. The hurricane devastated people, left people without water. The other thing that we need to understand too is that when we live here, a lot of times we live kind of like in a bubble. And excuse me for just 1 second. I got to get a drink of water. And what I mean by living in a bubble is that we live in our homes and our neighborhoods. And oh, wow, super chat from Ray. Thank you, Ray, so much. We live in kind of this little bubble. And what I mean by a bubble is we live in town, we live in neighborhoods, and basically we don't see the outside communities. Like, for example, the community that maybe our housekeeper lives in, or maybe our gardener lives in. Some of them do live in town, of course, but some of them live in the outlying communities. And these are communities actually that I just finished going to last week on Monday. These communities, some of them, they have one well that serves the whole community in water. They're self-sustaining communities, but some of them don't have running water, don't have sewage, they don't have garbage pickup. They don't have all the services that you and I are used to. And sometimes it's very important. And some of these people, it's hard to get out of that community because they're destined to be a housekeeper or a construction worker. They're usually maybe as a primary. There's in the school system here, there's what they call primaria, secundaria, preparatoria, and then the university. And usually primaria is your first 5 level. It's I would say your elementary school. Secundaria would be your middle school, and preparatoria is equivalent to high school, but the way it works here is prepa or preparatoria is it's the high school years, but they prepare you to go to college. So pretty much when you finish secundaria, it's like finishing high school in the United States. So some of these towns only have a primaria. As a matter of fact, good morning, good evening, Lambden. How you doing? The thing about this little town that we went to, one lady, not a girl, lady, an older lady, They said, show something that when you were 7 years old, remember back when you were 7 years old, tell us something that you're proud of, and then tell us something that you're proud of now. And most women stood up and said, I made friends, and then now I'm proud that I have a grandchildren, or I have kids, or I raised a family. And one lady got up and said, well, one of the things that I'm proud of is that I made it through primary school and I'm able to write my own name. And that's something that's very touching. I mean, it really was touching, because it's somebody that was proud that she made it through enough school to write her name. So we need to take this into consideration, that this kind of stuff exists around us. And this little town wasn't even 5 to 10 minutes outside of San Miguel de Allende. And so how can we give back to the community? It's not about spending your money at the market. Yes, it helps, because go to the market. Don't go to the grocery store, because you're buying goods for somebody from the market. Go to your local grocery stores in town, in the central, because you're supporting that family that may be from that little community, that may actually be from that little community, because that little community, the NGO that we're working with, actually promotes these communities and teaches them how to be a nature lover. How's it going? Teaches them how to be entrepreneurs and bring their business. So some of the stuff that you get at the local markets or the local artisan markets here are from the people out in these little towns. So that's one way of supporting. How else can we support and do community service for the, not everybody speaks Spanish and can translate, so, or do what I did, but there's so many programs here. There's so many non-governmental organizations here. There's a Rotary Club here. Rotary Club has that is their mission, is public service. There's a Rotary Club here that you can join. There's food banks here. There's actual expat organizations here that they feed they go out and they feed the poor. They help build houses. My realtor just did a project where they went out to a little town and helped them build a house. So there's a lot of stuff that you can get involved in here. And I think we need to get away from that mentality of, I spend money here, so I do Mexico good. It's not about just spending money here. It's about helping the local people. Maybe you have a housekeeper and someone tells you, oh, the going rate is 300 pesos. Well, what's wrong with giving 400 or 500, $5 more for the housekeeper that works for the day, instead of saying, oh no, I'm only going to pay 300 pesos because that's the going rate. That's something that, now, I mean, you don't want to pay, like, overpay, of course, but there's nothing wrong with giving extra money. And there's nothing wrong with trying to help the community that's giving you the opportunity to live here. And I think it's important. I really do. And not only do I think that community service is important to the Mexican people, but I think we owe each other. It's service to each other too. And what I'm talking about is within the expat community. I see so much on Facebook groups, people insulting each other, and you're stupid because you asked a stupid question, or how it's ridiculous what you just said. Why are we insulting each other? We should be helping each other out. I bring this up. I don't know if Mark is here from Two Travelers in Mexico, but they got shook down by the cops. I think I've said this before, and they did a video about it. And I basically told them, hey, there's nothing wrong. You did the right thing. You got out of there as quickly. It was in a dangerous area. You got out of there really quickly. And in my professional opinion, you did a good job. And someone came back and said, in Mexico, your professional opinion means nothing. Well, why do we need to have that kind of dialogue? Why? There's no reason. There's no reason why we should insult each other. And then I actually told him, well, you know what? My professional opinion does mean something and then I went off and gave my resume, of course. And then, oh, well, then you're being bragging. The guy went off and I just said, you know what? Why don't you spend more time in trying to help out the other people in this audience than trying to put somebody down? Because that is a way of doing community service to each other. That's why I have a Facebook group where I say it's free of drama. That's why I don't ask for money for any kind of services. That's why other than the monetization of ads on YouTube, that's why I don't take sponsorships. That's why I don't make a living off of YouTube, because I want to give back. I am living a great experience and I want to give that experience back to you, back to the Mexican people, and back to the community. And I guess that's my message for today. And let it sink in. And you know what? We need more people getting out of the hood. We need more children realizing their potential. I'll tell you a quick story about my father-in-law. 1 second here. Oops. I probably got the microphone there. Hit the microphone. My father-in-law lived in one of those little communities. Okay? He lived in a little community where they only had a primary school. My father-in-law didn't wear shoes till he was 12 years old. My father-in-law used to walk to school in his bare feet. His family realized that he was very bright. Very, very bright. So his family said, we need to move away from this town. We need to go to where they have a secondary school so that he has potential. So they did. They moved to another town called Montemorelos. And he went to secondary school. He got accepted into preparatory school. He went on to college. And he also went on to be a professor of economy at one of the most well-renowned private universities here in Mexico, equivalent to Harvard or MIT. And my father-in-law is proof that you can get out of the hood. But it took his family realizing that. And unfortunately, in these little neighborhoods, sometimes it takes these programs such as Resplendor or this other program, Apoyo a Aprendedores, that we're helping out. And maybe you can make a difference. And maybe you can help shape some little kid so that they can be the next economy professor at the Tec de Monterrey. And that is the message I want to bring across today. So now that I brought my message across, let's get to the questions. And you know what, John Kent? A mind is a terrible thing to waste. As Arthur Fletcher. Yes, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And you know what? The other thing that I was saying the other day is that many people, they get here and they say, well, there's nothing to do. You know, you just hang out with there's so much to do. I'm telling you, there's these community service projects, even for the social aspect of the community service projects. You can get involved in these things and you can make friends on both sides, the Mexican community, the expat community. We even have organizations. We have a stray dog problem here, stray animal problem here in Mexico. And I was even talking to one of the professors from Vancouver Island University. This is a professor. Her neighbor had a Mexican rescue dog, a dog that was rescued here in Mexico and taken all the way to Canada, if you can believe that, and had that rescue dog for 7 years. Hey, Jim Home Comfort, how's it going? So now let's get to the questions. If you have any comments on what I had to say, that's cool too. Let me go back through the comments because you probably did. And then and Ray, thank you for that super chat. It'll buy me a cup of coffee sometimes when I'm up late at night trying to edit videos. Uh, uh, they're talking here about Tom was watching both Gringos R Us and Two Travelers today, and Paulette just over her PR card today and said it was a beige. My PR card. Oh, okay, Tom, this is a good point. Was watching both Gringos R Us and Two Travelers today, and Paulette and just got her permanent residency card today and said it was beige. My permanent residency card is green. Are there any differences between the old ones and the new ones? Actually, Tom, I'll explain to you what happened here. There's an explanation for it. My residency card happens to be green. Oh shoot, my wallet. It's over there. I was going to pull it out of my wallet. I was going to pull it out of my pocket and show it to you. My residency card is green. But I want to say a year and a half ago or a year ago, they changed the residency card, the format of the residency card. The residency card is now, in fact, beige. It has more security features on it. Actually, Gringos R Us said probably maybe something to do with the hologram, the new printers, and possibly the holograms. Actually, it does have now. The green one does have holograms and some security features, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when I was reading, and Tom was saying, meaning holograms or security markings on the card. I wonder if anyone knows. Hope you don't have to get new cards. The government of Mexico decided to go to a new card that's got more security features, somewhat like the passport cards that you see in the United States. It got all these different holograms and different ways of putting it under lights and stuff to see if it's authentic. This was, I think, more of a change that they were going to make, like Gringos R Us. Were getting new equipment, and they went ahead and just made the change. Now, here's the thing about the green card. The green card is still good, Tom. Don't worry. You don't have to get a new card. No one's been told to get a new card. And as of today, immigration has said that you do not need, unless you lose your card, then you need to go get a new card, and then you'll get the new card. Or if you want to get the new card, I believe you can still go and get it. But that is not required that you get a new card. Now, that's a good thing because that's a very good thing because a lot of, for example, in the United States, I do know if they do change the card, everybody has to get the new card. Now, I do know in the United States, too, you also have to renew it every 5 years, your permanent residency. They don't have a temporary resident. They have a permanent resident card. And even your temporary, when you get married, it's a permanent resident card, but it's only valid for those 2 years that you have to be married to get the permanent. But luckily, you don't have to change it, Tom. So you're good to go. And unless there's something that comes out, keep up. I'll do a video. If it comes out that you need to get a new card, I'll do a video. But as of now, and immigration's official stance, and I've actually read this from INM on their Facebook page when they released the new card, is that you do not have to get the new card if you already have one. Ray Garcia, planning to visit Querétaro and Morelia, Guanajuato around Christmas. Wish me luck. Good luck, Ray. It's almost here. So it looks like you're going to be here real soon. Gringo, maybe something to do with new printers. Yes, it did kind of, Gringos R Us, but it was more of an upgrade of the system. And they just went to the new cards. It's got more security features from what I understand. Actually, there was a little, I think INM, when they did it, actually when we saw that on the INM website, I mean, INM has a Facebook page, actually. You can see the latest sometimes. Sometimes it's a little bit dated information. Uh, and basically, when they did the little presentation, they were talking about all the security features that they were having on the card for purposes of fraud, but not necessarily that, oh, there's a bunch of fraud going on with permanent resident cards. No, they're just coming up to date. The thing that people need to understand, and I've explained this to a lot of people, is that the Mexican immigration system was very behind. They were still on a paper system as of up to 5 years ago. All those computers you see, the kiosks that you see that you come in through, those have only been installed recently. This automatic FMM, no more having to fill out a paper. That's only been until recently. So basically, they were behind, so they're kind of catching up with all their systems. These security features that they put on the new permanent residency card are security features that the U.S. permanent residency card and the U.S. passport cards have had for years. There's RFID chips inside the cards now, all sorts of stuff that, actually even Mexico went to the chips inside your passports now with the new passports, same thing. So they're catching up. That's basically what's going on. They're catching up with the system with everybody else in the world. And even that's why we're getting more strict on immigration, even with the border running at one point. And Cindy, it's so nice of you guys to do that. Yeah, well, Cindy, I also think thank you very much that it was nice of us to do that. But I also think it's something that, and not only that, but it gets you involved in the community. You get to meet the people, the local people. And actually, I was working hand in hand with, the NGO and the guy that runs the NGO here. We had some really interesting discussions, and those are contacts that I'm going to have the rest of my life. And Dr. Fletcher, who happens to be talk about it's not Arthur Fletcher, Todd Fletcher, Dr. Todd Fletcher, who runs Resplendor, but it happened to be the same last name that you did, John, on the quote. That's somebody that's going to be a lifelong friendship. He's a professor from the University of Arizona that came down here. He's got a PhD in education, and he does a lot of He founded Resplendor in that little town, and he has a community center on his own property, actually. So let's see here. I appreciate all that you're saying, Ernie. So true about supporting others. Yes, it is very important that we support each other. And when I talk about community service, I can tell you about the poor neighborhoods and everything else. But you know what? It's not just about going to a poor neighborhood or feeding a kid or donating money or helping. It's about helping each other. You got to realize there's a lot of people there's a lot of people that, we talk about the financial solvency requirements, and I tell people, I get it. There's people that are trying to come here on $1,800. The average Social Security check right now is $1,800 a month. There's people trying to come here on $1,800 a month. And maybe they qualify for residency. Maybe they have to, I don't know, do border runs, but get away from the residency part. But that's $1,800 a month in the United States is almost unsustainable right now. And so when that person is like, hey, I have $1,500 a month, can I live here in Mexico? Yeah, we have to be realistic about it. Yeah, you're not going to live like a king, but you don't have to throw insults at the person. You don't have to tell them, oh, how dare you think you could live here on $1,500? No, try to help the guy out. Tell them, okay, well, if you want to live on $1,500 a month, this is where you have to live. This is what you got to do. Not insult the person because he only has $1,500 a month and he can't even afford to live in the United States. You helping somebody like that and telling them, hey, well, if you shop at the local markets and you do this and you do that, we're here to help each other. We're a community. It's not just the community you live in. It's a community. All of us that are moving overseas, we're a community and we need to help each other out. And let's see here. And let me, one. Cindy, I have seen Buen Fin advertised for driver's licenses, and I'm wondering if it's renewed on your birthday and how expensive it is to renew. Actually, Cindy, it all depends on driver's licenses here in Mexico. First of all, you can drive here in your U.S. license, but driver's licenses here in Mexico, it depends because each city issues, for example, each state issues the driver's license. So I have a driver's license from Nuevo León. Um, I had to pass a driver's test, a medical exam, and it was I don't know, I don't even remember. I think it was 2,000 pesos uh, for the fees to get my driver's license. And it's just like anywhere else. It lasts 4 years, and then you have to renew it. Depending on what state it's in, is going to be how much it costs. That's number one, and also how long it is. And they're not expensive to renew. Some states, and I'm going to tell you right now, some states you just show up with your U.S. driver's license and they'll say, okay, that's good enough. You don't need to take the driver's test. You have a license from another country, and they will issue you the license. Other places, just like me in Monterrey, because there's not a lot of expats there, most where you'll find that they'll let you just get away with not taking the test and everything. Or some places will say, okay, you don't have to take the written test, but you still have to take the driving test, depending on where you're at. And the reason why in Monterrey I had to take it because there's not many people, there's not a lot of expats community there. I had to take this test in Spanish on a computer, 20 questions, and I had to get enough right. And I'm amazed that I did it in 20 minutes. And then I had to do a driving test. And I think it was, I want to say like it was like 1,000 pesos or 2,000. It was a very minimal amount. Now, when you're talking about Buen Fin driver's licenses, Cindy, um, when you're talking about Buen Fin here, for those of you who don't know, is like Black Friday. And probably some expat service was advertising that Buen Fin deal. What I would do is be careful with the expat services. To be honest with you, Cindy, usually I will recommend a facilitator that'll help you with your immigration process, because the immigration process can be a little bit daunting. You do need a lot of different documents, and if you don't show up with the right document, then you have to make another appointment, and they make sure you have the right documents. A driver's license is not that hard to get here. And I noticed a lot of expat services that advertise that we can get your license plates and we can get you your driver's license, and they end up charging you almost like what they charge you for immigration. And for what? So that you could just go in there, show them your driver's license, and then you walk out with one. That's not, it's the, to be honest with you, and I know that there's a place out of Puerto Vallarta. There's a guy, he's an American, that decided that he was going to make a business out of plates and IDs, getting people their IDs. And he comes out on social media like he's some type of expert. And I'm not going to name the business. But unfortunately, what he is advertising, he's probably charging 2,000 to 3,000 pesos plus the driver's license fee. Plus, so you're going to end up paying 4,000 to 6,000 pesos for a driver's license that you could have walked into the DMV and done yourself. And actually, the INM process you can do yourself too. If you have enough patience, you can do the INM process yourself. And this one fiend, he was, or her, or whoever it was, the expat service was probably advertising it at a discount of, oh, instead of charging you 2,000 pesos to help you get your driver's license, I'll charge you 1,000 pesos. And really, honestly, the facilitator does nothing other than take you down to the DMV and maybe speak Spanish to them, because you can't speak English or speak Spanish. But if you can find a friend that can speak Spanish, and you'll know exactly what, you just go over there, and it's a very easy process. Unless you're going to Monterrey, you have to take the test in Spanish and all sorts of stuff. And then actually in San Miguel, I know that They tell you you have to get a medical, and then right next door is the doctor. Oh, but you go over there and pay the doctor 200 pesos to give you a medical certification. And they say hello and then sign the paperwork. Laura, intercambios, English Spanish groups are in many tourist visited cities. I have participated, even when visiting just for a week. Yes, those intercambios, those are a really great way of making friends. Also, what's really great about these intercambios is they have Mexicans that come and show up that want to learn English, and then you show up wanting to learn Spanish, and so they make it a social event. Actually, I think there's a person in Tulum. There's a girl in Tulum that actually started putting together these intercambio events, and it's even gotten very popular. I've seen her, I think, on YouTube. I want to say YouTube. I want to say that I've seen her, and she started just by word of mouth, and now it's a regular thing in Tulum. I think it is. Control Cadino is a great way to volunteer with stray dogs. Yes. Um, the Control Canino, actually, for those of you who don't know what that means, is canine control or animal control. uh, you can actually go and volunteer at some of their shelters and everything else to help them out. Uh, Thank you for that advice. And actually, Nomadic RV Living, I believe there's several NGOs that are also, for example, the NGO that got that dog to Canada. Um, that I was amazed when I was talking to it was one of the professors from Vancouver Island University, how a dog made it from Mexico all the way to Vancouver Island in Canada. Community service, talking about dogs. Paulette mentioned that she spends a lot of time rescuing street dogs. Yeah. And you know what, Wilfredo? That's a great thing to do. We in Monterrey actually have several street dogs. Sorry, I was muted because I was going to get a drink. But what I basically said is, Nature Lover, if you could get a little bit more specific about what that situation, because I have a couple of situations that I use as examples, and I don't think there was a YouTuber. I know I have used one example of a friend of mine from San Miguel, and another one from a Facebook administrator that they tried to um, stop her and rob her on the highway to Columbia Bridge. So if you could get, if you could just, um, because I don't remember, uh, and then maybe it was another YouTuber, and I'm just not, it's not registering in my brain. Um, Tom, by the way, when I was in Puerto Vallarta, went to a printer shop there and had two laminated copies of my PR card made, and always carry one of those instead of my original. Someone else told me to. Actually, Tom, I'm going to advise you against that. First of all, making copies, to be honest with you, without having them notarized in Mexico is actually illegal. Um, if you try to show those cards to the immigration, those laminated cards, especially if they're color copies, you're going to have more of a problem. Uh, you might be in more trouble than it's worth, to be honest with you. Uh, Second of all, probably in Puerto Vallarta, there's a guy that keeps telling everybody carry a driver's license instead of carrying your permanent residency card because it's almost impossible to replace and blah, 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 and get a driver's license. And by the way, I can get you your driver's license for a fee. Uh, a lot of people will tell you, don't carry your card because if you lose it, it's almost impossible to get it. Well, yes, you know what? If you lose your driver's license, what happens in the United States or what happens in Canada? You have to go get a new one. Yes, you have to take your time out and you have to go to the immigration office and say you lost your card. You might have to get a police report to show that you had lost it or whatever. But you can walk out with your new permanent residency card in not a lot of time. I carry my permanent residency card everywhere with me. Um, the other thing, though, Tom, is that there is a possibility, and a lot of people, I don't know why in Puerto Vallarta and also in Quintana Roo, maybe it's because you've got a lot of water there and people go onto the beach and people lose their cards all the time. But for some reason, everybody's like, no, no, don't carry your passport with you. Don't carry anything with you. Don't, you're going to lose it. And there's going to be, and let me tell you something, you're going to end up in 10 times more of a hassle trying to prove you don't have any documentation on you at all. Um, you know what? I've heard of people being detained for long periods of time until somebody can come with your resident card from your house. Um, I've heard people being detained for hours, or maybe the inconvenience of them having to drive back to you to your house. Um, so that inconvenience is no different than an inconvenience of getting a different card, a new card. I carry my card with me. I have a wallet with an air tag on it to take extra precaution because most people, if they're going to steal my wallet, I figure they're going to steal the credit cards and the money that I have and maybe leave all the other IDs. So hopefully I can locate my wallet afterwards. But to be honest with you, uh, I wouldn't take the advice of carrying a copy. And if you do copy it, have it notarized by a notario that it's a true and correct copy. Um, I don't know if a notario still does that. Most or they'll do that with a driver's license, permanent residency card. I do know that documents, they will do that with documents, but copies you have to be very careful with here in Mexico. When you copy a legal document, literally copy a legal document here in Mexico, if it's not notarized, and if it's in color, like an actual reproduction of the document, you can get in a lot of trouble. More than, and now I'm almost sure, to be honest with you, Tom, I'll be honest with you. If immigration sees your laminated card, you're going to get one or two reactions. I don't think anybody's going to put you in jail because it's illegal. They're probably going to tell you, give that to me. You can't have it. And maybe they might say, okay, yeah, well, I believe you that you're a permanent resident. Or they may say, you know what, Tom, come with us to the immigration office. And maybe you might want to get someone to go down to your house and pick up your card and prove to us that you're really, because this copy proves nothing to me. That's what immigration will more than likely do. So this thing, I don't want to scare you by saying, oh, it's illegal, you're going to get arrested. No, you're not going to get arrested. You're probably going to get a piece of, as a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. My wife with the FMM, one time when we were coming in we were trying to get a tip on the car. This was before I even moved to Mexico, and I had my FMM, and they told us we couldn't get the tip because the car, we didn't bring some document. So we went, because they had already given us the FMM, and the FMM, I had already filled it out, and my wife tore it up because it's got personal information on it. And boy, did the immigration, it's a federal offense to tear up a federal document, blah, 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 blah. You're never going to get another FMM in your life. He gave us the third degree. Now, did we get another FMM? Yeah. I luckily had a friend of mine, not a friend, but a guy assigned to our office that was with Mexican Customs. And I told him, hey, is it really illegal to tear up an FMM? He goes, yeah, it is illegal, but they're not going to do anything. So take it for what it's worth, Tom. But to be honest with you, I would have your original documents with you. Exactly. John Kent. In Baja Sur, I just needed to prove my blood type, and I was allowed to use my USA driver's license, no written driving test. Exactly. And most places are like that, John, especially in Baja. I have heard Baja's like that. And John even said, agreed, driver's license was much simpler than residency completion and RFC. Yeah, the RFC, you have to actually make an appointment. It's a pain. It's a pain. Yeah, actually, I lost my audio, John. It's because I was getting ready to take a drink and I put it on mute, because what happens is when I drink, my microphone was picking it up and it was kind of getting annoying. And someone brought that to my attention. And that's why, and then I was talking, I had my thing in there and I have a thought, and I kept talking, but I had muted my microphone, and I apologize for that. And because I was just getting ready. Yes, exactly. Blaine, John Kent, I'm in La Paz as well. Did you just give them your driver's license or swap, or did they let you keep your existing license and issue a new one? I think most places, I don't know, John, if you can answer that one, but John can answer that one but usually they don't swap your licenses out. They just give you a new one. You keep your U.S. license. Yes, Tom, I did lose sound because what I did, and I'm going to do it right now. But the problem was that I was muting the mic because I had grabbed the thing, and then I think Nature Lover had something. And do I still have no audio? Or maybe Nature Lover, when I kept my USA. Let me see here. Well, that's way back when. Can you hear me now? Now I hear you. Yeah, okay. Now, you know what? Because I'm way back in the in the comments, and I'm saying unmute, unmute. Yes, and I was talking to Nature Lover, and I was addressing your question and what had happened, and I told you I went and grabbed the thing and I muted it, and it's like, oh shoot, and I didn't see because I was way back at the comments. But thanks for letting me know that I was muted. John Kent, must pay to receive audio. No, you don't have to pay. I muted it for free. And actually what it was I told you I mute the audio when I go to take a drink of water. And it was something that was kind of, because of the water I have to drink, because I don't produce saliva as much as I used to because of the cancer. And when I was taking a drink, actually, let me show you. I'm just going to do it once. As you can tell, that was getting picked up by the microphone. And so what I do now when I have to take a drink is I say here. But what happened, nature lover, is when I got your question, and I started answering, I had muted the microphone, grabbed my thing, and then I go, wow. And I started reading the comment, and I started giving you an answer. But of course, oh, shoot, it's on mute. Oh, nature lover. Yes, what I was just talking about right now. It was two travelers in Mexico. Actually, I think I said it was two travelers in Mexico. They did do a video on it, actually. Go to Two Travelers in Mexico. They're subscribers, and they didn't get in trouble. They got into a situation where they got stopped. It's a very common area. They were going towards the Laredo area. There's a stretch of highway between the Columbia Bridge and Nuevo Laredo. I think they were going to take the Columbia Bridge, and there's a stretch. It's a speed trap, and basically it's a speed trap. Basically, the cops stop you, and they basically say, "Hey, you've been speeding." And sometimes they stop you even if you're not speeding, and basically they start telling you, "Well, it's a fine, and I'm going to have to take your driver's license, and but we could take care of it here." And basically, most of the time, what I advise people with all of this is when they start doing that, you just say, well, give me the ticket and take my driver's license. I mean, I'll go get another one from the state of Texas or whatever, and maybe even give them my U.S. driver's license. And, but I always say, take the ticket. Unfortunately, in this area, in Nuevo Laredo, right outside of Nuevo Laredo, what'll normally happen if you don't give them the 2,000 pesos or whatever they ask for, or say, let's fix it now, they say, okay, we won't give you a ticket. But at the same time, there's bandits that are hanging out very close by that'll take advantage of the fact that you're stopped by the side of the road, box you in, and then rob you. Okay, there's been no proof that the cops are in cahoots with it, but it's just a coincidence that bandits show up after you refuse to pay the bribe. Also, there's also been incidences in that area where the cop will stop you, and bandits will show up, and the cops will go, "Oh my God, we're scared," and they take off. And so there's been a lot of implication that the cops will stop you for the sake of robbing you, and that they're in cahoots with the bandits. But what happened to two travelers in Mexico, and I think this is what you're referring to, is what happened to two travelers in Mexico is they got stopped, and they got into the dilemma of whether to pay the ticket, not to pay the ticket, but to pay the bribe, which I always say don't do, and which most people will tell you not to do. And usually they won't. And if they make the effort to give you the ticket, well, darn. I mean, it's a lot of paperwork. So, but they went ahead and paid the bribe, and they felt embarrassed that they paid the bribe. Okay. And usually, and you don't want to, and not every cop, when they stop you for speeding, wants a bribe, but in this area, and they got out of there very quick. So I told Paulette the comment that I made on that. As a matter of fact, you could probably look at the comments. I hope that they're still there. I know Mark said he left them up, but they basically felt a little bit embarrassed. So I wrote to them and said, look, you did the right thing. You got out of there as quickly as possible. And number one, you paid the bribe, so the bandits weren't going to come. And number two, you got out of there as quickly as possible, because if the bandits were going to come to get you, you probably got out of there quicker by just giving them the 2,000. I don't remember what it was. They have the whole story They did do a video about it. It's two travelers in Mexico, and it's Mark and Paulette, and they actually said the story about what happened to them. And they didn't, not that they got in trouble. The way they got out of it was by paying a bribe. But the thing that I was telling them is they were in an area that was, see, and that's what's very important about being educated and knowing. People go through that area all the time telling me how safe it is and how I've been through there 15 million times and how I've never had any problems. And these problems exist. There's videos on YouTube of the bandits showing. I mean, I've actually seen videos on YouTube. They've come up on my feed where the guys were like, "Oh my God, this cop stopped us," and the next thing you know, the bandits come in and they drive away and get away. They were smart enough to get away, and there's been numerous newspaper articles about this happening. This is not something that's new, but if you don't know any better and you're going through this area, you may end up having to make that decision. And unfortunately, because it was corruption, but they made the right decision in getting out of there as quickly as possible. That's what I was referring to, Nature Lover, if that's what you were asking about. I'm sorry, I was kind of lost. And actually, that's when I lost my audio. I'm not sure which YouTubers. I'm not sure because I used a couple of, that's what I was actually saying when I was muted. Yes, John Kent, never make a color copy of an official document. It can be considered an act of counterfeiting. Yes, that is true. They're very true, John. And that's what I was just explaining to Tom, especially if it's in color. If black and white, because there are times when the government will ask you, we want 5 copies of your passport in black and white. Yeah, well, the government's asking you for those copies. Especially when you get your tip, you have to have different copies of different stuff. But those are black and white copies. They're not color copies. Nomadic RV, I made a copy of my PR card and wrote on a copy of the original, and it covered it with tape, not formally having it laminated. Well, actually, like I said, I would, nomadic living, first of all, I'd make it black and white. Second of all, right now, and to be honest with you, immigration with all the security features. Remember we talked about the permanent residency card and the temporary residency card changing with all those security features? Actually now, and I've seen this at the airport, they can actually put their phone, I don't know if it's an application or what it is, but they put their phone up to your card to see if it's a valid card. I've actually been checked, and actually they had that already with the green card. They actually put my card underneath the telephone like a camera, and parts of the card turned a different color or something like that. And they said, okay, you can go. They didn't even ask me, like, I don't even know if they looked at all the data. They just looked with the phone. Problem that you have with a copy is they're going to say, sorry, you need your original card. That's just the way that immigration is nowadays. The days of carrying a copy. Now I do know, let me tell you, this is old school. Carrying a copy of your card is old school. And I'll tell you why it's old school. Because at one time, 5 years ago, as recent as 5 years ago, they didn't print cards out at the local immigration office. You had to go, whenever you applied for residency. When I got my residency, it took 7 months because I had to send it to Mexico City. Then I signed on a piece of paper, and then they sent a piece of paper and the photographs, and then they produced the card in Mexico City. And it took me 7 to 8 months to get my card. Okay. So the advice back then was get a copy of your card, because if you ever lose it, guess what? It's going to take you 7 to 8 months to get your card. And I can believe that because it took me 7 to 8 months to get my first card, my first ever residency card. It took me, I think, 8 months. As a matter of fact, it was so ironic that I was 9 months, I think, or 10 months, because I remember, because my first card was issued for a year because I got temporary and not permanent for reasons that I wanted to bring in a card and I never did. And I was like, but I don't understand. I just got my card, and in 2 months I have to get my renewal. And then I finally renewed for another year. And then it was a long story, but then I got my permanent. But that was the old school of thinking. You lose your card, you're in for another. And actually, I was sitting next to a Cuban when I was doing my renewal, and she had lost her card, and she took her 6 or 8 months. She goes, yeah, I'm going on 6 months because I lost my card. And but that doesn't happen anymore. And everybody needs to understand these systems have been updated. Yes, it's going to be an inconvenience. Yes, it may take you a month to get an appointment. Yes, you may have to, but it's not going to take 6 to 8 months like before. So you know what? You're better off just carrying your regular permanent residency card. And because guess what? Now, if you're close to home, and you don't have your documents, okay, you're close to home. They take you to the immigration office. You have someone bring your card in, or hey, come follow me to my house. I'm just down the block. I can see not carrying your card. I mean, I've even been caught without carrying my card, but I know I'm in San Miguel de Allende, and I can call my wife and say, bring my card to the immigration office because I've been detained. But if you're traveling and you have a copy, you're going to have a lot of issues, especially if you get stopped at one of these checkpoints. You're going to have a lot of issues. And I've seen issues of people being detained for long periods of time. And the last place, and let me tell you something. You think Mexican jail is bad? So are immigration facilities. And you don't want to be held up in an immigration facility, not even for an hour, especially if they take you to the back. The nice area in the front of an immigration, or they take you to a detention center until the detention center is totally different than the lobby that you go into to get your residency card. So I mean, it's all up to you. I know a lot of people are still old school. I'm only going to carry a copy, and that's what they're going to have to accept. Well, you know what? You're going to have to accept having to go to the detention center. I'm not saying it's going to happen because, there's so much inconsistency here sometimes with immigration that maybe we'll take the copy. But I'm going to tell you right now, I've been checked. I mean, literally my card has been scanned with a telephone. And I don't know if it's just that the camera and I've never tried it, but put it up to my residency card can show the holograms. I don't know what it is, but they actually checked to see if my residency card was authentic. And so you run that risk. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to argue because I got into that argument long ago when immigration started requiring originals, even of your passport. It used to be able to carry around a copy of your passport. But I do know that there's some people that are adamant about carrying copies. And my position on it now is carry a copy, but just know that you may be detained and the copy may not work. And you may end up with more of a hassle than if you just carry your card and lose it later on and have to get it replaced. I'll tell you what, even waiting 6 months for a new card is a lot nicer than being held in the detention facilities. And I have actually been to immigration detention facilities. I have actually visited them. I have seen them. I have actually witnessed them. And you do not want to be held in an immigration facility, or even some immigration offices. You haven't seen the back of the immigration office. You've only seen the front. I'm just telling you right now. And the back's not a comfortable place to be waiting while someone's bringing your card. And especially, I do know one person in Merida, they got stopped. They had copies. And they actually they commented on one of my videos that I was doing about this carrying originals. And they didn't have any friends that could go get their copy, that get their original card. And they kept calling and calling. And it took 8 hours before they could find somebody to go to their house, open the door. They had to find the landlord to open the door to get, she got a friend, I think it was, to open the door to her house or her apartment, get the card and bring it to immigration. But by the time they did that, that whole process took 8 hours. 8 hours she was detained in an immigration office in a very, very place that you don't want to be detained in. Trust me. Um, yes. They're not I think they did a video on it. It was on about talking about a car back, they were taking their car back to the U.S. Gringos or us. Those two travelers in Mexico. Yes. I believe it's crossing the border extortion to travelers channel. Tom, I would never use a copy of the card to pass through immigration, but I get stopped by the police and showed them a copy and they didn't know the difference. Thanks for the advice. Won't, won't again. Thank you. Yeah, Tom, actually, here's the thing too about the police. One thing you need to understand about the police is not immigration. The police doesn't care about your immigration status. So if you've been stopped by the police for like speeding, if we're talking about the Guardia, now the Guardia Nacional does have immigration authority. But if you've been stopped for normal, they don't really care about your immigration status, to be honest with you. And actually, they shouldn't even be checking they don't have permission. By the Constitution, a policeman doesn't have a permission to ask your status. Now, you may have shown them it as an ID, like, oh, hey, this is who I am. If they asked you, do you have any identification? So that's probably why the police didn't do anything. If it's immigration, then that's where you might have a problem. And like I said, yes, like, what's his name? John, what's his name? John, sorry, I apologize, John. But what John said is having a color copy is just like counterfeiting here. And that's the only issue that you're going to have is that, if you get somebody now, more than likely, you're not going to have an issue. And what I mean by not have an issue is what's probably going to happen is they're going to take it away from you. The police probably didn't take it away from you because we don't check immigration. We don't care. But they might have stopped you for something else, but. Okay. Yeah, I'm finally getting the messages. Here's the other thing about live streams is I'm a little bit behind. Like, there's a delay of like a couple of, sometimes up to a minute. So sometimes when I'm saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't get the messages that you can hear me until a little later on. Nature lover. No worries, Ernie. We were waiting. We know you'd be back. Hold on just one second. And actually, I want to bring this up too, because Mexico City has something like this. Hold on. Mordida. La Paz government has a WhatsApp account to report occurrences of this by local police. They want this to stop. Yes, actually, La Paz has that. I didn't know. There's a couple of other places that have WhatsApp numbers. Now, there is an app called Denuncia Paisano that has been recommended. And now I've done a short on that, and I actually done a video on that. If the individual is not a federal cop or a federal employee, do not use the Denuncia Paisano app. Do not use the Denuncia Paisano app because it goes nowhere. And I've seen recommendations. The Denuncia Paisano app is... Am I back on? Let me see. Did I lose it? No, I got everybody. Okay. I got an error that my streaming stopped, but I guess I'm back on. Is everybody still here? Shout out if you're still here. It shows that I'm live again. I'm going to probably show 2 live streams. Now I'm losing people. Actually, I have 20 viewers. Is anybody still here? Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes. All right. Thank God. I recuperated. I said to go live again. Something happened with my internet connection. Okay, great. Still there. Yes. Actually, the local governments have started to do something about this, John. A lot of local government, there's actually an app in Mexico City. If you're in Mexico City, there's an app for reporting corruption in Mexico City, but do not use the Denuncia Paisano app. Unless they're federal. If they're federal, use the Denuncia Paisano. Nature lover, do you know the best, which is the best place to cross the border if driving into Mexico? There's different ones. If you're coming through Texas, I always say Eagle Pass. Nogales, is very good. A lot of people have a good luck in Tijuana, going down to Baja. Um, it all depends. What I always tell everybody is that the border is always going to be very, very active. And, the border is going to be very, very active all the time. You always have to be cautious, but like I said, maybe not use certain routes. You don't want to go through places like Matamoros. You don't want to go through places like Reynosa. I know people have said, oh, don't pay attention to the State Department because the State Department always tries to scare people. Yes, pay attention to the State Department. The State Department website. Now, I do know that some of these places that you're going to have to cross through the State Department does have travel warnings, even for the state of Coahuila if you go through Eagle Pass. But you got to reduce your risk. That's what I always tell people. Mitigate risk. So going through Texas, you want to go through maybe Eagle Pass. That's probably your best bet. Not Nuevo Laredo. Nuevo Laredo at times is okay, but most of the times, the past 2 years, it hasn't been a good place to cross. Reynosa, depending, you have to be on top of the news and you have to know where you're going and you have to know the area because that's where I cross and I have never had any problems, but we check the news beforehand. We check Código Rojo, which is, there's several Facebook sites. It's all about being alert and it's all about kind of doing your homework before. There was at one point when I even said, don't pass an Eagle Pass because there was violence that was spilling out over in Eagle Pass. Most of the Mexican news sites, El Norte is the newspaper for the northern part, like that covers like Laredo, McAllen, Tamaulipas, all of that area up towards Coahuila. If there's problems, they'll usually have articles about it, and you can just push the translate button. I know it's all in Spanish, but now the browsers nowadays, you can translate the articles. So just keep up to date. Lambden. So keep passport and FMM, TRC, PRC on person always. Yes. Now, your passport, if you have your temporary resident card, you don't have to have your or your permanent residency card, you don't have to have your passport with you. Now, you do have to have your passport when you're entering into the country, yes. But now, if you're a tourist, you should have your passport and FMM with you all the time. Now they're not issuing FMMs, they're stamping your passport. So now you don't have to. Now, a lot of people used to complain, oh, well, I don't want to lose that little FMM card. You don't no longer get one. It's in the computer system. So all you need is your passport. Now, I've heard the argument, well, I'm going to go out to the beach. Why? Somebody could steal my. Well, if you're at a resort and you're going to go out to the beach and your hotel room is right there, leave it in the safe in your hotel room. And if immigration approaches you on the beach, which they do, they have been known to, hey, let's go to my hotel room. It's right over there. Maybe they might just say, well, you know what? Okay, I believe you. Or they might go to your hotel room, but it's only a walk to your hotel room and you're only 5 minutes away. Now, if you're going to go, or maybe you're going to go down the street to get groceries, maybe you don't, you're on an FMM and you don't want to lose your passport, because that is a hassle to get you got to go to the embassy or the consulate and get an emergency passport to get out of the country. So maybe you want to be more cautious about where you carry your passport, how you carry your passport, but it's all about, really, really being judicious and knowing that I'm close enough that if immigration wants to know my legal status, I can go and show them. Do you see what I'm saying? The permanent residency card, the temporary residency card, they're just like your driver's license. I mean, you carry your driver's license when you drive your car everywhere. Just get used to driving, just like if you're carrying your driver's license. Many people carry their driver's license just as a form of ID. So always have it on you. I always carry, and this is the thing that I'm talking about with the permanent residency card and the temporary residency card. Old school is carry a copy. lock up your permanent residency card, because if you lose that card, it's going to take you years to get it back. Well, that was the old days. It doesn't take years to get it back. You go with a police report to the immigration office. Yeah, it's going to be a hassle. Yeah, you're going to have to maybe make a couple of trips or whatever the heck, but it's not 8 months or 9 months or a year like it used to be. And even as recent, some offices as recent as 3 or 4 years ago. I said 5 years ago because that's when a lot of offices started getting the printers in the immigration office. But now, almost every immigration office has it, and it's not an 8 or 9 or 10 month ordeal. Because I have spoken to people that have told me, oh yeah, I lost my card and it took me a year to get it back. Yeah, a year, because that was the old system. Thanks. Yep, here. Yep, I'm back. Okay, great. And still there. Hopefully this live stream won't come up in 2 live streams. Hopefully it'll just come up in 1. But if it does, please understand that's why I got an internet connection problem. I don't know what happened. Our internet goes out. If I ever get cut off and for good or whatever, I will let you know on the comment section. Sorry guys, I got cut off if my internet goes down. Thanks, Ernie, and everyone. Got to pick up, take out. We'll see you, Tom. Hope my advice helped. And thanks, guys. Actually, I'm running over time. I think I was at 1 hour and 30 minutes, but now I say 8 minutes because that's 8 minutes since I got cut off. But thank you guys for joining me. I think I'll cut it off here because I think I got to everybody's. Oh, shoot. Well, you're going to get to see me twice there at the very end. But thank you very much. I think I got to everybody's comments here. And as I said, I hope my message resonated with you. When we talk about community service, let's serve each other. Let's serve the beautiful community of Mexico that we've been given the privilege to live in. And I'm going to have another live stream next week. Hopefully I'll have some surprise live streams, but I'm going to be busy for the next 2 weeks. Probably not going to see very many videos other than the live streams. These live streams are a way for me to keep in these live streams is a way for me to keep in contact with you guys and answer any of your questions. If I can't get back to your comments right away, sometimes I'm 3 or 4 days behind. Just be patient. Oh, and also, by the way, oh, darn it, I just remembered one thing. I did get the information on the car importer-exporter. I will post it. And the problem with that one was I needed to get their public email address because I had personal information. I didn't want to give away this importer-exporter's personal information, but I will post that. I was supposed to post it earlier, and darn it, I was answering everybody else's. I was behind, and so I will post that. Somebody had asked that in the stream, and I'm so sorry. It took me 6 or 7 days, but it took me a while to get everything through. And I want to bring this one up. Ernie cannot be silenced except when the internet goes out. Thanks. It was a compliment. Thank you, John. And thank you guys. And thank everybody for showing up. And thank everybody I love these sessions because you guys talk to each other. You answer each other's questions. And that's what's really great. It's not just about me answering your questions. It's about everybody. And as I always say, stay safe and stay informed. And until next week, or if I pop up live, surprise. And I will be getting back to doing videos soon, but I'm just a little bit tied up right now. See you soon.